They say every party has an ending, but no one tells you that sometimes, the ending is where everything truly begins. The music had dimmed to a hum, the fairy lights flickered over empty cups and half-eaten cake, and laughter had faded into the kind of silence that only comes after too much pretending. People were leaving in groups, some tipsy, some laughing, some whispering secrets they'd forget in the morning. But she stayed. That's where it all started. He'd thrown the party to prove he was fine. Fine after the breakup. Fine after losing his best friend to distance and his dream job to someone with a shinier resume. Fine after a year that felt like an emotional landslide. The house was full, music, chatter, everyone pretending they cared, everyone posting stories, tagging him, saying how great it was to finally hang out again. But beneath it all, he felt hollow. Every laugh felt forced, every compliment felt like pity disguised as politeness. He kept smiling because that's what everyone expected from the fun guy. The one who used to light up the room. Only, tonight, his own light had burned out. He was standing in the kitchen, staring at a cup of melting ice, when she appeared. Her name was Mia. She wasn't the loudest, or the prettiest by typical standards, but she had a presence, quiet, calm, like she wasn't trying to take up space, but somehow did. She'd been in the corner most of the night, sketching faces on napkins and smiling politely when people passed by. He hadn't really talked to her. Not until everyone started leaving. "Hey, thanks for coming," he said as she passed, her coat draped over her arm. She nodded, about to go, then looked around at the now empty room, the silence heavy with unspoken things. She tilted her head slightly and said, "You don't really want me to go, do you?" He blinked. "What?" She smiled, not the fake kind, the real one that made her eyes crinkle. "Everyone left the party, but I think you still need someone to talk to." And then she set her coat down, walked back to the couch, and said softly, "Now it's just us." They talked. Not the small talk kind, the real kind. The kind that only happens when two people realize they've both been pretending too long. He told her about the breakup he didn't see coming. About the best friend who moved away. About the job that slipped through his fingers after years of trying. She listened without interrupting, without trying to fix it. Just listened. And then she told him her story, how she'd spent months taking care of her mother through illness, how she'd lost herself in the process, how she showed up at the party tonight hoping to remember what joy felt like again. Two broken people, sitting in the ruins of a night that was supposed to feel fun. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It was something quieter. Something human. At one point, he asked, "Why'd you stay?" She looked around, thoughtful. Because sometimes, when everyone leaves, that's when the truth finally comes out. People think parties are about connection, but it's after the noise dies that real connection starts. He didn't respond right away. He just nodded, realizing she was right. The clock ticked past midnight. They made tea instead of pouring more drinks. They sat on the floor, laughing softly at stories from childhood, drawing doodles on the back of paper plates. Time passed differently, like it wasn't rushing anywhere. For the first time in months, he didn't feel like pretending. Chapter 2. The morning light crept through the curtains, touching the empty cups like quiet memories. The house looked like a battlefield of joy and exhaustion, but he didn't care. She was still there. Sitting cross-legged on the couch, sketchbook open, drawing him. "Don't move," she said without looking up. "You've got that look people get when they finally stop running from themselves." He smiled faintly. "And what look is that?" "The kind that says, you're finally breathing again." He laughed quietly. "I didn't know I wasn't." They talked until the sun rose high enough to turn everything gold. There was no pressure, no rush to define what this was. But something had shifted. He walked her to the door later, hesitant. "Thanks for staying." She shrugged, smiling gently. Sometimes, the best part of the night isn't the party. It's what's left after. He watched her leave, but somehow, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something that didn't need music or lights to mean something. Days turned into weeks. They started meeting at the little cafe downtown, not planned but somehow always at the same time. They'd talk about small things, favorite movies, dreams, failures, and sometimes say nothing at all. He found himself writing again, something he'd stopped doing. She started painting again, colors returning to her world piece by piece. They didn't fix each other. They simply reminded one another that being broken didn't mean being unworthy of connection. Months later, he hosted another gathering, smaller, quieter. When everyone started to leave, he found himself looking across the room. And there she was again, lingering, smiling softly like she remembered too. He walked over and said, half joking, "Everyone left the party." She grinned, finishing the sentence, "But I stayed." He smiled back. "Now it's just us." And in that moment, everything made sense. The heartbreaks, the losses, the noise that led to silence. Because sometimes, life strips away everything loud and temporary so you can finally hear what's real. It wasn't about the party. It was about what came after, the courage to stay when everyone else leaves, to connect when it's easier to walk away. That's how healing begins. Not in the crowd, not in the laughter, but in the quiet space where someone stays long enough to say, "Now it's just us." And maybe, that's all we ever really need.